Hello everyone, welcome to the second ever episode of Not Another Nutrition Podcast. This episode is actually something that I recorded a little while ago in response to something that happened on my stories, where I was in the car with Arlo and Orly, and Arlo started talking for the first time ever about bad foods. And you can imagine I was instantly, triggered is a strong word. Triggered is normally like angry, but it kind of triggered my spidey senses, as it were, of like, oh my goodness, wow. Big topic as both a parent and also as a parent who is heavily involved with nutrition and puts a big emphasis on people's relationships with food and wanting to promote a positive attitude towards food. So it wasn't something I massively considered before. So I had to do a lot of thinking on the spot. And anyway, I'm going to talk about this in this recording, but just so you know, it's I got to lots of people had asked me questions. How did you deal with that situation? And so I just recorded a really off the cuff video, just sat at the office in my car, and I've now turned this into a podcast recording because I just think the stuff that I talk about there could be really widely helpful. It's helpful, even the stuff I end up, you know me, maybe. I go off on tangents, lots of things in my mind, joining lots of dots. And I covered some quite cool topics that I really hope you guys will find helpful. And especially for those of you who are parents or plan to be parents, that maybe it just gives you a bit more time than I had to consider what to say and the right way to approach it. So just before I let you launch into listening to that, just to say thank you very much for coming back to my second episode. The suggestion form, the suggestion and feedback testimonial type form has now been created, and you can find all of the podcast show notes, any links that I mention in podcasts forevermore. They'll be hosted on my website, martin-mcdonald.com/NANP, Not Another Nutrition Podcast. So you can find them there. And so, already by the time of recording this second show intro, I've already had suggestions, but please, I won't be fielding any suggestions or anything like that in my DMs on Instagram. I'd really like you to fill in the form, because it'll get you to give me the information in a format that's actually helpful for me to answer your specific question or talk about your specific topic. So please do that there. And as I said in the first episode, I also want you to get in contact. Even if you've contacted me before about it, if you have kind of got a story to tell, and the way, just today I got a message from someone talking about how the medical system had essentially failed them and with fertility, and they were trying for a child for many, many years, and this, that and the other, and their PT recommended me, and they started following my work, and 2 months later, after making the changes that had been suggested online, she fell pregnant. So it's super cool. And I just think that getting her on the show to talk about what she did, it will act as an inspirational story for some people. It will provide some people with hope. And I just think sometimes I can give out information, but it's the way that person has heard that information and what it specifically made them do. But but the mindset is the big side of it, of what it really changed for them. There's only, so many ways I can say about a calorie deficit, for instance, and fat loss, which this wasn't her case. But for someone, or there's only so many times I can tell people they have unconditional permission to eat anything, but just the way someone else puts that in their own words, or how it made them feel, or what they heard, might help someone else. So anyway, that form is there on the website. martin-mcdonald.com/not another NANP, sorry. So please use that for suggestions. Cool. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode, and I will see you next time. So I've had quite a few messages asking me about what I said to Arlo after his teacher told him that chocolate was an unhealthy food, or however he came about that information. People said, oh, you're going to write to the school, this, that and the other. I'm not sure if I will. I'm not really that kind of person. It's quite a Karen-esque sort of thing to do. Obviously, when things are well placed, you should make a fuss about them, of course. I just don't know, it's just a teacher, they're doing their thing. They're probably told to do it, it's part of the curriculum. I might politely be like, if I can offer anything, I might sort of just mention to them, is there any training? I would happily do it for free for the teachers, just in terms of, leading to an unhealthy relationship with food. Maybe even use the fact that the Freddie Flintoff story, if you're not aware, suffered with bulimia for 20 years. And after, that was more body shaming, which, you hope isn't going on in this instance. But it all ties into the bigger picture. I might offer some help and just be like, if you start demonizing foods, sorry, I don't know if I finished that. Freddie Flintoff suffered with bulimia. And for instance, like a dietitian, a registered individual, teacher doing their job well, but if that teacher suffered from an eating disorder, and this was a England cricket dietitian or nutritionist who's talked about eating disorders and did not offer what we teach on MNU about unconditional positive regard and just allowing the freedom of speech, and also, just not showing judgment. And this dietitian and nutritionist showed judgment about people with eating disorders, and then he couldn't open up. But anyway, so I might offer the school just to offer that up and say, are you aware that teaching this kind of thing does create these black and white things of bad and good and shame and guilt and that kind of stuff around food, which is not positive. So anyway, my discussion with Arlo, there's no perfect formula. And so I think sometimes people are after a specific retort, and there isn't one. And I think it's very easy to jump to things. So one thing that is a skill within motivational interviewing, which I've basically stolen and moved its principles. So in motivational interviewing, you essentially don't tell someone you need to change, because it causes what's called, so the writing reflex is essentially when they tell you something and you tell them the answer and how it should be fixed. And then defending the status quo is essentially, yeah, but it's difficult, or defending what they currently do. New Tesla feature, it bleeps when the lights go green. I should really probably have the car on auto drive. Some people are probably going to get uppity about me recording a video whilst driving, despite the fact that they would happily mess around with their radio, have a conversation with someone else in the car, etc. Anyway, and despite being a far inferior driver to myself. Anyway, joking aside, I didn't want Arlo to have to defend the teacher, because it's his teacher, and he has respect for the teacher, and therefore it would create a dichotomy in him that would be challenging. So I sat back and I had a good think about it, and then we essentially had a discussion over this term bad food. And I think in this day and age, for any of my evidence-based practitioners and followers, it's important to remember that black and white thinking is bad. However, there are better and worse food options probably. For us as humans, having very heavily processed, very nutrient deplete, very energy dense foods is not good for us. And unfortunately, because of the demonization, you cannot eat this food, bread is bad, carbs are bad. Even if that's something as wholesome as a potato, it's bad. Fruit being demonized, fruit not just saying it's going to make you fat, but saying that it's going to give you diabetes and all this kind of stuff. So this is the issue that we are faced with. And typically I never talk about good and bad foods with the children. I don't even talk about unhealthy foods.
I just let them eat. I just let their lifestyle dictate how they end up eating. You cannot stop a child desperately wanting chocolate and ice cream and sweets, and I let them have them because I think in this day and age, if we lived on a desert island and there was no food involvement in, and this is the same for adults, sorry, this isn't just children, I do think that we should limit our intake of junk food. And again, people going, oh, you're calling it junk food, that's bad. It's not, it is junk. You know, for all intent and purposes, highly processed, you know, your Twinkie type foods. You know, squashy is my favorite sweet. There's nothing nutritious about a squashy. The problem is you have to see health from a very holistic point of view in this day and age, where you have the food environment, you have the media, you have food scientists and marketers all working together to make us want these foods. And therefore, without a doubt, we cannot get away from the fact that we live in an unhealthy society where if you did live on a desert island without all of these things impacting you and your stress and your mental health, we'd be healthier. But you can't, unless you're going to go full on hippie, tree hugger in the woods. You can't get away from that. So you basically, this has been my motto since 2008-ish, 2006, 2008, in terms of the performance nutrition for healthy lifestyles. In performance nutrition, you don't go, what's the status quo? What's the standard? What have we always done? What is optimal physiologically? You go, what is optimal, taking into account all different areas of what this person is doing with their training, with their sleep, with their current environment. Can you push them hard on their training? Because their social life and their social stress and their relationships are currently in a really good place. Therefore, they're able to put up with a bit more stress and a bit more overtraining. Anyway, I'm going off topic a bit, but I like to talk and I like to teach, and I hope that you'll let this stuff wash over in you. And just, you know, I'm talking to practitioners here as well as parents, as well as people with their own nutrition. If you withhold sweets and junk food from, you basically give them a power over someone. So if they want them, I will often let them have them. But with their whole behavior, with the whole environment that I set them up with, you can set the environment up well, and other people choose not to, and it annoys me. But having a biscuit tin or chocolates sitting on the side and going, no, you can't have them, no, trying to teach them restraint through going, they're there and you can't have them, and then when they don't have them, then that'll help them. Not a good idea. Just out of sight, out of mind. You know, for instance, like with squash, we don't have squash around and we don't have it with meals. But if we're at a party and there's squash and all the other kids, by me going, no, again, it just elevates that status. I don't like squash because it is highly palatable in terms of the level of sweetness. And if you have it with meals, then it makes the healthier food seem so much less appealing. And then you wonder why your child won't eat broccoli and these kind of things. And also not discussing these highly palatable foods, which they can remember and they understand the way they taste and the way they made them feel. So if you're like, oh, we're going to have ice cream after you've eaten your broccoli, straight away, they're just thinking about the ice cream. Anyway, this has gone hugely off topic. The discussion I had with Arlo was around the key thing I tried to get across to people, which is variety, not moderation. Moderation is a stupid word when used with nutrition. Because what is moderation? Moderation to someone is very different to moderation to someone else. And the level of moderation or restraint that someone needs to use with regards to particular foods, etc., is very different depending on the individual and their goal. So moderation, don't ever use it. It's irrelevant. It's completely undefined. It's not tangible. However, variety, more or less varied, is very easy to just go. The more varied your diet, the better with regards to fruits and vegetables. And if you want to go to macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats. And if you want to go to fatty acids, variety is good. And it's a good thing, you know, with fiber types, it's a good thing to get lots and lots of variety. Now, through just very gentle discussion, and also I was managing Orly's comments because Orly was chiming in about good and bad foods and this, that, and the other. But she said some good things. She was like, yeah, but we can still have chocolate. And I said, yeah, we can, Orly. That's absolutely right. And we have to eat lots of other foods that are good for us as well, but we can still have chocolate, and chocolate isn't bad. And I specifically tackled, I think, this thing of like, chocolate's not really bad for us, and we can still have chocolate. And, you know, the initial time I said that, he was like, but chocolate is a bad food. And he kind of started defending it. So I was like, okay, I need to be really careful in how I talk about this. And I said, the main thing that we need is variety. And then he said, but you can't eat chocolate all the time. And I thought, that is positive. I'm going to give him a sense of positivity. We can't eat chocolate all the time. And I said, no, you're exactly right, Arlo. You can't eat chocolate for every meal. That wouldn't be good. That'd be bad for you. And then he gave me a fantastic phrase. And this is why I say it's going to be different for every situation. And you just need to be careful and really think and be considered in your thoughts. Try and be wise. You know, like this saying about, you know, the wise man doesn't speak. The wise man doesn't say anything unless what he's got to say is better than the silence. You know, all these cool motivational quotes you see. And, you know, wise people, two ears and one mouth, listen more than you speak. Wise man is considered in his responses, so talking slowly. You know, talking so that your mind's going faster than your mouth. And that's something I try to do all the time when I present, when I teach. And obviously, if your brain works faster on a particular topic because you think about it so much, which is, I think, what my life is. I think about nutrition. I teach nutrition so much. I've really immersed myself in the world of nutrition and teaching. And I consider my words a lot when I teach, so that I really consider, what is someone going to hear when I say something? Because when you go to say something, what you say and what someone hears can be very different. So Arlo gave me this fantastic opportunity where he said, but you can eat broccoli all the time. And I said, well, that's interesting you say that, Arlo, because you couldn't only eat broccoli for every meal, because that wouldn't be good for you. And he was like, yeah, you can eat it all the time. And I said, but you couldn't only eat broccoli, Arlo. And in the same way, you can't only eat chocolate. Broccoli is a really good food, but if you eat any food all the time, it's not going to be good for you. So we need to have variety. We need to eat lots of different foods. And I didn't go, I think this is probably what people want to hear from me. I didn't go down the route of moderating your intake of chocolate. I didn't go down the route of going, you must eat good foods and then you can eat bad foods. I didn't say you must eat nutritious foods and then you can eat some bad foods. Because I just don't think at that age, really until someone has really good critical reasoning skills, that you should be going down those routes. My children know that we don't eat chocolate all the time. They know that when there are options of snacks, what are the options? And I open the snack bag and there are good options and they get to choose from those. And I don't say chocolate's bad and the reason there isn't chocolate in there is this reason. Those are just the options that are on display for them. And it's a minefield. And I hope you don't think that I've got this absolutely nailed. And I'm not trying to say that I never fail. Because I don't want to induce parenting guilt on you, because I know that how powerful that is and how upsetting it can be. I know that I'm in a privileged situation where I've very, very consistently done this ever since the children were born in all sorts of different ways. I was very good, you know, I deserve some credit for how much effort I put into their nutrition and how they were weaned. All aspects of their feeding and care and health I was super involved. But if that wasn't something that you were aware of, you are in a much more difficult position than I am now. And therefore I don't want you to think it's pointless, because again, more sayings. God, there's so many good sayings in this. But the best time to plant a tree was was it 10 years ago or yesterday? But the second best time is today. So starting now, but not expecting perfection. Little wins. This is why I like things like, if there's foods that they don't eat, but they love ketchup or they love butter, putting those on these foods that are less palatable to make them nice. And there's some research that shows this, basically these food challenges, by using making these foods more palatable over time, because texture is important, the look of the food, the name of the food, all of these things. If you can make them more palatable, more normal, and over time they will then be able to eat broccoli without salt or butter or ketchup, etc. And you're preparing them from adulthood really well. You know, it's amazing when you get 20, 18-year-old, 20-year-old football players that I work with who had never eaten a green vegetable and were repulsed by it. Now that's flipping difficult. Even the plasticity of taste reduces, you know, in adulthood. So you want to be having these food taste challenges as a child. Ooh, my easy entry has been activated. Oi, oi. Easy entry. What about easy exit? Elon, a little bit of feedback for you. So I feel like that's been good. I mean, it's 21 minutes, so only about 10 people will watch it. But if you have enjoyed it, give it a like, give it a share, tag a parent, share it on your story and tell people, you know, this is a really worthwhile. Watch 20 minutes less of Love Island or whatever junk's on TV at the minute. Sit down with a cup of tea or a glass of wine, have a watch. And please, as always, leave comments below, questions. You know, I'm really happy to answer questions. Please don't DM me questions. I'd much rather, if I'm helping someone, that others can see and benefit from that, not see that I'm helping people so I get a pat on the back. So yeah, I hope it's been of value to you.